welcome to another exciting episode of DMMR. This is Mike, and this is episode 6 of the program. Dijon is not here, and I apologize because it's been like 3 months since the last episode, which is like a mini episode about the Nintendo announcements. But there's been a lot going on, so there's been a reason that we haven't recorded an episode in a few months, which the main reason being that Dijon actually moved to California. Something about pursuing his dreams or something like that. I don't know. So he moved to LA, and he doesn't really have the space right now because it's like a shared living thing to be able to record the podcast, like a quiet enough area to do it. So he just hasn't been able to record, and I've been trying to hold off because, how do I look driving a podcast by myself? I mean, they do call me Podcasty McNasty, but that's a big responsibility just to be in here driving the podcast and like making sure the ship doesn't sink. But there's so many things to talk about. There's so many things that's been going on in my life. So usually I would start with Dijon and ask him, what he's been up to since the last episode. But, he ain't here, so I'm going to just tell you what I've been up to. If you follow Mike Texts It Out, my YouTube channel, I've just gotten a bunch of new stuff in the last few months. I can't even remember if I mentioned that I got a third camera on the last episode. I actually bought a GH3 so that way I could do 3 different camera angles. I might have mentioned that, but that's been huge. It's really been helpful. So I've been up here editing, doing multicam with the GH3. I have also gotten a bunch of new robot vacuums. I don't know why. During like Black Friday, I got a weird obsession with robot vacuums. And well, it wasn't just Black Friday, but like it's been this whole working from home thing, and we live in a 2-story townhouse. So I was like, I want 2 robot vacuums just to keep the floors clean, especially with having 2 dogs that shed all the time. So I got 2 D-Bot vacuums. One of them is just like a basic, it's like the D-Bot in 79S. It's like a basic navigation one where it just bumps around, kind of like your cheaper Roombas. It just bumps around and cleans everything until the battery runs out and it returns to the base. And then when we have upstairs a D-Bot Osmo T5 that actually uses LiDAR to map out the area. This sounds very boring, but to me it's very exciting because it actually knows where it's going. You can tell it to clean specific rooms. It's been really nice and helpful to have around the house, just in general. What else happened? Oh yeah, the whole election thing happened. I know we mentioned it in, I believe it was episode 4 when we talked about the election. I hope everybody got out there and voted. I know a lot of people got out there and voted. A lot more people. I mean, the most people in U.S. history. So no matter, who you picked, it's just good to get out there and participate. This was actually my first election. As crazy as it sounds, I just never brought myself to vote before, but I was like, this is important. I got to get out there and do it. And I waited in line. I think it was like 3 hours. I actually went early. And, I'm just glad I got out there and my voice was heard. So hopefully you participated. I know I'm mad late because this episode is like mad late. So this has been a lot. I just rambled on. I rambled on for like, I don't know, 5 minutes about robot vacuums and elections. And then of course there's the Mike Texts It Out YouTube channel. Like I mentioned, there's just been a bunch of new stuff up there. I just been focusing on production and learning how to do different style videos, incorporating a lot more comedy into my videos. So that's just been a lot of work. That's what's been consuming most of my time. And like I said, Dijon is now in LA. He actually has a lot going on that I'm not going to talk about because I don't know how much of it he wants to share, but hopefully it'll be really good news for his book in the upcoming few months. So keep an eye out for that. You can find his books on Amazon. I'm gonna put in like the names of the books on screen because I'm just not in the mindset right now to remember anything. I know there was the Emancipation of Deborah James. See, even me trying to pronounce it, I already messed it up. And then there's Dion's Baptism, and then there's Queen of America. I think it was like the Emancipation, Dion's Baptism. Technically, look. Okay, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so you have to forgive me. But yes, that's what's been going on, like a brief overview. So I have a lot of things I want to talk about today. And the first thing I want to talk about was actually related to the video I did on Sunday, because I changed my video schedule. So now my news videos are on Sunday. but it was related to the whole cyberpunk thing. So if you haven't heard about cyberpunk, it's a very popular, well, it is, I was going to say anticipated, but it's already out. It was a very anticipated game before it came out. It's supposed to be one of the biggest games of the year that got delayed 3 times. It was supposed to come out in spring. It just came out December 10th, and there's been a bunch of issues with it. I kind of covered it more in depth in the video. I just kind of wanted to speak more about it because my videos, I feel like, my videos, I try not to make them as rambly, but, here on the podcast, I can ramble about anything for as long as I want to, as long as it's remotely interesting, which we'll see if this is interesting or not. And just kind of my take on the whole thing because I think, no, let me tell you what happened first. Let me tell you what happened so you don't have to go watch the video if you don't want to. So yeah, basically it came out. There's been a bunch of glitches and the performance hasn't been great, specifically on the base model PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, like the original ones that came out in 2013. If you're not familiar, they came out with like upgraded models, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X later, and those models are able to run the game, okay, but the base models can barely run it. And it was like a whole fiasco about like kind of people asking, how this even happened. Like, this game was delayed for like half of a year from its original release. And then it came out in this state, and then it's pretty much in a state where it's not even playable on certain consoles, but you're selling it for those consoles. So it was kind of like, how did this happen? Which I'm not going to sit here and blame the developers or anything because I know that they worked really hard on this game, and that would suck to, work really hard on this game and then have everybody trash it, or trash the developers for the issues. Like, it was clear that they probably just didn't have enough time to get the amount of polish that they wanted. So either way, someone made the decision to release the game as is, and it's not even playable on those consoles, which resulted in both Sony and Microsoft offering refunds, but more so Sony just pulled the game from PlayStation Store altogether. So they were just like, we're offering refunds and we're not even going to sell it right now. Microsoft, as far as I'm aware, is still for sale, but there are a lot of people that are just getting defensive about it. And the thing that I didn't want to get into, because I don't like to get too opinionated in my videos, but in my opinion, is like, why are you getting mad about it? Like, it's not working on those consoles. Like, why are you getting mad and get defensive about the game? Like, people are legitimately getting defensive about the game and being like, oh, Skyrim had glitches and all these other games had glitches. And then also, CD Projekt Red also made the Witcher series, and apparently Witcher 3 had issues when it came out, and they really worked and made the game a lot better over time. So people are like, they're going to improve the game, which I'm sure that they will, but the fact is, it's not playable right now. And I just don't like the fact that people get swept up in, these big companies, like they're your friend or something like that. They're not your friend. They're still selling a product, and it's their job to deliver that product as promised. And when you release a game on a console, it's not a PC where you can like release a game and like, these are the minimum specs, but it's barely gonna, run. It's barely gonna be playable if you have these specs. But if you upgrade, you'll have a better experience. On a console, you can't upgrade, so you're stuck with whatever the experience is out of the box, and that means that experience has to be playable, and that's the main point. So I definitely agree with the whole offering refunds thing, and like I said in my video, I agree with Sony pulling the game because PlayStation 4 has a way bigger install base than the Xbox One, which means a lot more people will probably buy it unexpectedly and then want a refund. So it's easier for them to just pull the game all together than to continue to sell it. So I just thought it was kind of stupid the way people were like reacting and trying to defend it. And personally, I have the game. I have it on PC, and I've enjoyed it so far. It's not like my favorite game or whatever, but it's been pretty good so far. So I actually like the game, but I'm not going to sit here and defend like, someone shipping a broken product that doesn't work on the systems that it's supposed to work on. Like, just be logical about it. Like, you can still be like, I'm enjoying the game, but I understand why this is happening. It's not like you have to be like, people just act like you have to be on one side of the extreme or the other, where it's like, either you support this game and you support everything the studio does and you think everything is right, or you completely hate this game and it's the worst thing ever. And it really just never, under any circumstances, has to be like that. Like, that's not even a reasonable way to act about anything in life. Like if you go through life just acting that way, it's just gonna make things more difficult. Like life in general is gonna be more difficult. Like you might fall into a volcano. I don't know what's gonna happen to you if you just live your life that way. Speaking of these new games, of course, since the has it been that long? I guess it has been that long since the last podcast, but the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are also out and they're not purchasable at all. Like I know one person that happened to get one during Black Friday at PlayStation 5. And I've actually did have the chance to buy an Xbox Series X a few weeks ago. They had one at GameStop. It was like a bundle. And I could have bought one, but I'm just not planning on getting a Series X because I already have a gaming PC. So I prefer to play Microsoft's game on PC. Also, there's been a bunch of new graphics cards that came out. Like the RTX 30 series came out, and it really was like the performance gain over last generation has been amazing. And then those have also been sold out. And then AMD released some new cards as well that are competing with some of Nvidia's higher end cards, and those are sold out as well. So everything that you can possibly imagine that has come out has just sold out instantly. And there's a lot of people that are getting frustrated about it. And this is not something that I'm really going to blame the companies for in this case, because people are just at home and they're buying a lot more stuff than normal because of the pandemic. And then on top of that, that's also affected manufacturing. So it's not like even if they assumed more people were going to buy this stuff, that they probably could have produced anymore because manufacturing has just also been affected by the pandemic. So I'm not going to personally hold that against any of the, companies like Sony or Microsoft or Nvidia or AMD for not having the products available. But I definitely understand from a consumer standpoint of how frustrating it is to try to buy these graphics cards or, PlayStation 5s or Xbox Series X, whatever it is that you're out there trying to buy. I definitely understand the frustration. Like I tried to buy a graphics card because after I got Cyberpunk, I wanted to play it with ray tracing on, and my RTX 2070, it tried, but it's just not a great experience. At 1440p, it's actually it's like around 30-ish frames at best, but then like some scenes where it's like a lot of people, it definitely drops below 30, and that's not really playable in most cases. So I was like, I'm gonna get me a 3060 Ti. That seems like a really good value for $400. And then it instantly sold out, and I didn't even have a chance to even see one. I didn't even see like an add to cart button on any site. It was very sad. So it's really been frustrating, and that like caused me to deep dive. Like if I had to, like, let's say if my graphics card broke, right, and I had to build a computer right now, what's the best that I could do as far as buying a graphics card right now? And don't go on eBay. eBay is just a mess. Like everybody is like selling everything for it's way overpriced. Like an RTX 2060, which is the last generation card for one, and new is around $300-ish. Like I've seen those going for $500 or $600. I've seen like RTX 2070s going for around that price as well, like even $500 to $600. And these new cars that came out are like, twice as fast as these ones. Maybe not twice as fast, but they're definitely a lot faster. And the 3060 Ti is faster than the 2060, the 2070, and the 2080 Super. And it's only $400. And people are out here paying like $700-800 for a 2080 Super. That when these new cards are available again, like actually available to buy in stock, you could easily beat with a $400 card. So as far as buying a GPU, the best thing that I've seen, like the best way to get a decent value, not a good value, because the best value is still going to be waiting for those new cards, but it's just to check your refurbished stores. Like NZXT has a refurbished store where they sell graphics cards. Zotac was the only one that I seen that had the best deal because they have an RTX 2080. They had a blower style one for $490, and then a regular like dual fan card for $500, and that's not a great deal considering again the $400 3060 Ti is still faster than that card. But based on the markups everywhere else, it was literally the best deal that I could find. So if you really have to buy a card, try checking. EVGA is another good one. EVGA B stock or the refurbished section, they have cards that go up every day. And on Wednesdays, they have their midweek madness where they do discounts on their refurbished products. So that's a really good place to check as well if you really need a graphics card right now. But please just try to wait. Try to wait until like around March or April, because I have a feeling that's when we'll start to see like more stock of all of these products come back in. So that's my rant about Cyberpunk slash everything being sold out slash everything that I've missed over the last 3 months of not doing this podcast. And another thing that happened was Apple, they finally released their first new Apple Silicon Max. I think I talked about it briefly when they announced it. And of course, I have my MacBook Air right here. This is not an M1 MacBook Air. This is a 2021, but this is like the last Intel one that there is, the last of a generation. And do I feel a little bit salty that I bought an Intel Mac and then the M1 Mac came out and it's a lot better? A little bit, but what I do on this computer, it still handles everything that I do fine. So the M1 is definitely like, you shouldn't buy an Intel MacBook Air right now with the M1 being out. But for what I do, like at the time that I got it, I'm fine with my purchase. So I'm not really going to upgrade unless I have a reason to upgrade, or I can get like a cheap M1 MacBook Air next year. Maybe when the new model comes out, maybe I'll consider upgrading. But for now, if you do have a MacBook and it does all the stuff that you want it to do, then I wouldn't worry about upgrading. But if you are an older MacBook, then this is the time to upgrade. Now, I haven't talked about the M1 aside from like the initial announcement of the product on my channel, because typically I don't like to talk about products that I don't have, in hand on my channel, just because if I'm doing a video about it, I don't feel like there's much more input that I can add because I don't have firsthand experience with it. So I'll usually go over the announcements and give my impressions of the announcements, and that's it. And unless I get the product, then I'll do more extensive content. But since this is a podcast, I can talk about it and kind of give my thoughts on the M1 just based off of other people's reviews that I've watched and read. And it seems like there's really few issues with compatibility with older apps, because that was the one thing that I was personally worried about, is like switching to a new architecture from x86 to basically ARM, like a mobile type processor. Those apps aren't really designed to run up there, so they're running through Rosetta 2, which is basically like an emulation software. So like if you have an older app, like for instance Google Chrome, when the M1 Max first came out, wasn't available yet, so you had to run it through emulation. And I actually hear that it works really well. And then everything else that's like actually built for the M1 chip is way faster. I hear just way snappier. I haven't had a chance to try one myself, but as you would expect, like especially Apple's apps, it's just a way faster computer. The MacBook Air doesn't have the heating issues that it did before. So like when the M1 was announced, my first thought was like, this will be perfect for the MacBook Air. And unsurprisingly, that was one of the first machines that they announced, along with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which made sense because it hadn't been updated this year, and then the Mac Mini. So I think overall, it's a great time if you are in the market for a lower end Mac. At least if you're in the market for a higher end Mac, then you definitely want to wait until the higher end M1 chips come out, or it might even be called M1. This is just the first version of the chip, but until the higher end Apple silicone chips come out. So right now, like you wouldn't trade in like a MacBook, like a 16-inch MacBook Pro for an M1 MacBook Air. It wouldn't make any sense. So if you're on a higher end system, you definitely want to wait. But if you're on like an older Mac, like if you have like a 2013 or something like that, and you've been waiting for an upgrade, but you don't need anything that's like extremely fast or extremely fancy, you definitely can look at the new MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro, which is weird because performance-wise are almost the same. It's just that the MacBook Air has a fan, so it can do like sustained loads longer. Like if you're doing rendering, it might be faster at that because it can sustain a higher clock speed longer than the MacBook Air. But otherwise, they both have the exact same chip. So there's like less of a reason now to even buy the MacBook Pro. It's crazy, aside from the touch bar. All right, so the other thing that Apple announced towards the end of this year were the Airpods Max, and I actually have them right here. I just got them yesterday. I just got done editing the unboxing video for this. So I think the podcast is going to go up today, which is Tuesday, December 22nd. So this is actually going to go up before my unboxing video. So if you're listening or watching this podcast, you're actually getting a sneak peek at my thoughts on these $550 over-the-ear headphones. And I know a lot of people think it's probably crazy to pay that much for some headphones, and some ways they're right, but these, I'm going to give you my actual real first impressions, because like in the unboxing video, I literally just got them, so I kind of had mixed feelings about them, and weirdly enough, I had some buyer's remorse, like right after I bought them. I was like, are these really worth that much money? Because I already have, like, I'm using my Sonys right now, the Sony WH-1000XM3s, and I've had these for over a year, and they've been great headphones. And like when I was doing the unboxing video, I cut a lot of it out, but I actually, listened to the AirPods, and then I listened to these, and I was just like, my mind, I was like, these sound pretty much the same. Like the AirPods are a little bit clearer at higher volumes, but that's it. I was like, man, these are almost exactly the same. And I knew realistically, like when we're talking about wireless technology, wireless audio, there's a ceiling that you reach with audio quality. So I was like, there's no way that it's going to be that much better than your $300 to $400 headphones like these. But I guess I was still like hoping or expecting more. And I was like, I did have a little bit of buyer's remorse. And I was like, should I return these? So as of right now, I decided to keep them. But I think they're good headphones. They're really good headphones, and the build quality is excellent. Like they're all metal, like stainless steel and aluminum. It's crazy. Like, I mean, they're heavy, and I hate the charging case thing. Like, it's so stupid. But yes, the headphones themselves are really good quality. They are really heavy. But is it going to be worth it? I think for a lot of people that have Apple devices and don't already have like some higher end headphones, like your, higher end Bose or Sony headphones, then this will probably be worth it. Or no, worth it. Worth it. I can't talk right now. But if you're not, like, I ignore what I just said. The AirPods grabbed the audio from my MacBook, so I got distracted. So if you already have some higher end headphones, like $300 to $400 price range, these are probably not going to be worth it. If you don't, and you have a lot of Apple stuff, like you have a MacBook and an iPhone and an iPad, and you just want some headphones that you can easily use between all of them that sound really good, then yeah, these might be worth it. I think build quality wise, I can see why they're $550 because they're a lot better than these. And I even say, like, so far they're a little bit more comfortable. I haven't worn them that long, so I still have to see on that part of it. But I feel like these are the headphones, like, for Apple users. Like, these are either Sony or Bose, 700s, but for Apple users. That's kind of the whole appeal of it. And they have those Apple type features, spatial audio and automatic switching, and this seamless pairing and all that stuff that you get from Apple headphones. So is it going to be for everybody? I don't really see, at least right now, I still have to spend more time with them, but I don't see a point in someone buying them that's outside of the Apple ecosystem. I just think that you could go and buy like the Sonys or the Boses, and the build quality is not as good, but sound quality wise, they're going to be very similar. Because like I said, wireless audio, you're reaching like the top of what you can do with Bluetooth with these headphones. So they're not really going to sound that different, aside from maybe this one's a little bit bassier, maybe this one's better with higher tones, but that's pretty much going to be it. Like, there's not going to be that much of a gain audio wise, but I don't think that a lot of people that bought these headphones or are buying these headphones really care that much. Another thing Apple released, getting off the headphone subject, is Apple Fitness Plus. Now, Apple Fitness Plus, I believe, is only $5 a month, and that's basically where you have it's kind of one of those workout programs where you have, basically workout videos and you go through the exercises with them. I've been doing the treadmill stuff. I was actually really excited about it because I was like, okay, I really want to get, some other treadmill exercises, because right now I usually just run for like 25 to 30 minutes and then that's it. But I really want to do more, like know when to add incline or when to increase speed. And I've been using it and it's really helped me a lot with that, like kind of increasing my pace and then going back and recovering while still running. Like, it's really helped me. And if it is $5 a month, I believe it is. I have the family plan, so I'm just paying for, not the family plan, the Apple One plan. So I'm just paying for everything anyway. I'm just paying $30 a month. But I think it's worth it. Like $5 a month is really cheap for one of those workout programs. Of course, you do have to have an Apple Watch. I want to preface that. You have to have an Apple Watch, you have to have an iPhone or an iPad or an Apple TV in order to use it. In which cases, if you have an Apple Watch, you pretty much have to have an iPhone, unless you have your Apple Watch set up as a child's watch on somebody else's phone. But yes, you do have to invest in Apple's ecosystem. So let's say if you got the cheapest iPhone, which would be like the SE, and the cheapest Apple Watch, that's still like around $600, that you have to invest in equipment in order to use this. But if you do have an Apple Watch and an iPhone and you are interested in exercising at home, I would definitely say it's worth checking out for $5. And I believe they're doing like a free trial anyway, like they do with most of their stuff. So I would definitely give it a try. But I like how it shows your rings and everything and the calories burned during the exercise on screen. And then also, like if you're running like I do, it shows your distance. So it just has a lot of useful information. One of the other things that's kind of cool about it too is it does have all the music. Like if you're into the music that they're playing, it has a full playlist there. And then you can also add it to your library if you use Apple Music. So of course they got to tie it in with all their services and be like, get all Apple. Like all this stuff is ecosystem hooks, like even of course the headphones and all that stuff. And if you're wondering why I'm not using those headphones to monitor myself right now, it's because I don't have the adapter, because it doesn't come with the adapter to use them as wired headphones. You have to get like a lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapter. Technically they were originally made for like, I think it was the Beats Pro. So that same one works for the Airpods Max. But yeah, I don't have it yet. So unfortunately, I can't use them for things like this, like monitoring audio or doing anything musically. So I'm still waiting on that. That should be here Thursday, I believe. It's kind of crazy that you have to spend $35 on top of $550 to even get an option to plug it into stuff, like, any other headphones in existence. There's one other thing that I'd like to mention, and that is Dijon does have a new demo reel that I edited again, and you can check it out at freedomarts.com. That's Freedom Arts with a Z if you want to see some of my non-tech related work. And then I'm moving into the free self-promotion section. I'm just gliding into it because I'm by myself for this podcast. But if you want to check me out, you can find me at Mike Texts It Out. Of course, youtube.com/Mike Texts It Out, and on Twitter at Mike Texts It Out. And Dijon, of course, freedomarts.com. And then I'm going to put all his other stuff on screen because I don't remember what his Instagram or Twitter are. And I'll put it in the description for the podcast notes if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast. So that was all the stuff that I wanted to go over with. Those are all the things I wanted to go over today. But if you do have a question or a comment or anything, you can email us at dmmrpodcast@gmail.com. Send in your questions that you may have for us or for me, because I don't know when Dijon will be back. So I will definitely be here. And until then, I will catch you on the next podcast. Podcasty McNasty is out.